Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of Wedding Season, our 4-part series to kick off our summer, which also happens to be one of the most financially calamitous times of year because of wedding culture and all that surrounds it. I am your host, your friend, your mother, your guidance counselor, Chelsea Fagan, founder and CEO of The Financial Diet. And this is
Ashley Ford, author, podcast host, and friend of Chelsea Fagan from The Financial Diet.
the best kind of friend there is. And this week on Wedding Season, we are going to be talking about and discussing some of your stories about wedding guest culture. Now, that could be people in the bridal party. It could be the couple's parents. It could be random attendees. Because although the culture around hosting and what it means to even have a wedding has been largely lost in America right now, lost in the sauce, if you will, the culture of being a good guest, I think, is also a little bit on the chopping block. And people are also engaging in all kinds of crazy behavior. But before we get into today's conversations about wedding guest culture run amok, and some questions about what is or isn't good guest behavior, I just want to take a quick second to shout out and thank the sponsor of the entire wedding season series, Monarch. So for those who don't know, I was a longtime Mint user. They're in the first TFD book. I've talked about them many times on here. But Mint is no longer. And since I was looking for a good new budgeting app, I heard about Monarch. I now use it. I really love it. It is a wonderful, super easy to use app and is great for getting your money together no matter where you are financially. And obviously on wedding season, we're talking all about kind of crazy, chaotic, ill-advised financial decisions. But when it comes to managing your money right, the right tools genuinely make all the difference. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Wall Street Journal named Monarch the best budgeting app, and it was named the best Mint replacement by Forbes, which I agree with. And even better, there's no ads, no selling your financial data to third parties, and no premium-only upsells. Just a clean, secure app that makes managing money feel way less overwhelming and actually kind of fun. And just in time for wedding season with Monarch for Couples, you and your partner can create a shared view of your finances, track your progress together, and make your money dates a breeze. Join over 1 million other Monarch users. Head to monarchmoney.com or the link in our description box and get 50% off your annual plan with code TFD. What is your craziest wedding guest story? Not necessarily of your wedding, but a guest at any wedding you've been to. Because I have one.
Wow. This is... Well, I mean, probably it's my wedding, though. I have a family member. I have a family member who likes to drink. Let's just say that. And during the reception part of our wedding, my bridesmaids, my maid of honor, her sister, who is so lovely, I adore her, went to go get Kelly and I a drink from the bar. And up until that point, the bar had not opened because the bar would not open until the reception began. Okay. And we were all still just sitting down. And she went over to get us drinks, and some people were already lined up for the bar. And this family member was the first one. So my bridesmaid sister goes up to the bar and says, "Hey, I need a beer for the bride and a beer for the groom. It's what they want to have with their meal." And my family member flipped out that she was not, that she had been cut in line. She flipped out that she had been cut in line. And when told, well, these drinks are for the bride and groom, said, well, they're not special. Why should they get something before everybody else? And then continued to sort of throw a fit and berate people in the line. I didn't know this was happening at the time. Obviously, I heard about it happening later. But that's just one of those moments where Kelly and I are like, there had to be something. And it's not the worst thing that ever happened. And especially with this family member, it was very much like, hey, that's pretty much their modus operandi. Yes.
Yeesh. That being said, I want to give a huge shout out here to all of the people who've had to navigate a wedding with a guest that for whom an open bar was a problem.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, her stepfather, very much that type. And she was very clear from the get-go, if you are drinking, you are not welcome at my wedding. Mm-hmm. But once people get there, it's very hard to manage that. So she literally had a close friend that she was like, you need to kind of be my eyes here, because I like will have a straight up like anxiety panic attack if he starts going off and doing what I fear he might if he gets some drinks in him. And so she was just like, I, don't have to do anything, but just if it seems like it's getting hairy, please get my mom or get whatever and help me handle it.
Yeah.
And that was like after a long back and forth of like, am I even inviting this person because of the unpredictability of it? And I think like, I do understand, there are many reasons why one might want to have a dry wedding, but I do understand that for some people, it's a matter of like, not everyone can necessarily handle the opposite. Mm-hmm. And again, I stand by my assessment that a cash bar is the worst of all worlds, because then you're just literally like, will the lifeboats be seated according to class? But, having that added pressure of like someone who can't be cool about it.
Yes.
It can really ruin people's days.
It will mess up the vibe expeditiously.
Yes, it will. Okay, so for mine, I have two little anecdotes. One is I was at a wedding, one of the first weddings I ever went to, two people who were way too young to be getting married. And they're now divorced. And one of the two people is gay. So
great.
We love to see, you know what? Quick in, quick out, no kids, limited damage. I don't think they spent too much on that wedding. So we're good to go. Mm-hmm. But when you're having a wedding with a bunch of like 23, 24-year-olds, a lot of idiotic behavior takes place. And it's notably, I believe it was the sister of the best man, if memory serves, who showed up to this wedding in a white dress. And I am not talking about a, dress that had a big pattern with a background of white. I am talking about a white 3/4 length, like midi gown looking dress. And we were like, what? Like, this is like, how could you think that this was appropriate? And like, listen, I think some people are a little too, uptight about stuff like that. Like, I think you could have like a dress that has a little bit of white in it. It's like, whatever. Like, people are not going to think it's, a wedding gown. But it was so insane and egregious. And what happened was like 20 minutes into this reception, one of the bridesmaids went over and intentionally spilled a very full glass of red wine down the front of her dress. And we were nowhere near she was not able to like go back and change into anything else. So she proceeded to spend the rest of this, it was a winter wedding, so we had coats. So she proceeded to spend the rest of this wedding reception and the after party wearing a red coat buttoned all the way down to cover up her dress that was now covered in red wine.
Well,
you get what you get.
Things happen. We all make mistakes.
Yes, we do. But I don't think that was a mistake. I think she was just being a bitch, to be honest.
I think that the person who spilled the wine
you mean
will
the person who spilled the
probably
wine?
Still contend that it was a mistake. Because they just happen sometimes.
Oh, I agree with you that the person who spilled the wine was a mistake, but I know that white dress was not a mistake.
That white dress should have. I mean, you know what? The white dress was a mistake.
Right.
They just didn't acknowledge that it was a mistake to themselves. But it was a mistake the whole time, which is why you showed up in the white dress and left in the red coat.
In the red coat. Like the British, you left in the red coat. This is where I say, like I said in the other episode, some people are missing that shame chip.
Yes.
Because no matter how much you want to upstage that bride, I don't think she liked that bride for a variety of reasons. Truth be told, that bride wasn't my favorite either. But
you can't behave that way at someone's wedding.
How are you not racked with anxiety about everyone judging you and talking shit about you and making fun of you? And people are crazy.
I think some people, it's worth it to be the center of attention, even if it's for the worst reason possible at that moment. I can't relate to those people. I've always found much easier ways of getting attention where people are happy that I've done something. I can't. No.
The other one, and this is the same wedding, was, and because we're young, we're stupid, a friend volunteered to be the DJ. Save the money. I'll DJ the wedding. Now, let me tell you what this man proceeded to do. I mean, it was like, first of all, it's hard to call it DJing when it's just like playing a song and then it stops and then you pick another song to play. It was very unpleasant, like sonically. But at one point, so wait, the big wedding dance songs, you have like the cha-cha slide, the electric slide, the wobble. Okay, it was the wobble. So we're playing the wobble. It was a packed dance floor. Most of these people knew the wobble. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like really getting into it. I think it was like it was post the first chorus, but it was like early in the song, a minute in. And all of a sudden, he just starts like cutting, and he was like really trying it on the DJ front, starts cutting in Iggy Azalea's Fancy and just cuts off the wobble. And I have never seen a crowd react so strongly. Like if it was medieval times, he would have been murdered. Like
He would have been stoned.
Stoned to death. Everyone was like, boo, boo, put it back on. What are you doing? Like, get him out of there. Like,
Get him out of there. Get out the booth.
literally. And it was like, and obviously I sort of felt bad because he really thought he was, cooking with gas. But it was just like such a good example of like, there are certain things you should never cheap out on. And one of them is get good music set up.
Yep.
Because that makes or breaks a party.
It does. And you want them to be fun. You want them to have good taste. You want them to understand the vibe you're trying to set. You don't want somebody who's going to get up there messing around because they doing it for free anyway. And they're just like your buddy who was like, I can do it. I think that's one of the things that has to be said with weddings. Step back sometimes, accept help from your friends, ask for help where you need it, but understand people's limitations.
Oh, yes.
And don't just take people at their word that they're going to be able to do something because they think they can.
100%. Also, you'd be better off with just a Spotify playlist.
Oh my God.
Because at least the song would finish. Like, just the feeling of like 100 people on the dance floor, like, wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble. And then it's like, dun, 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 dun. It was also like the beats didn't go together. It was like not the same BPM. I have never seen a group of people get so angry.
He was just trying some stuff. Don't experiment at my wedding.
He's like, anyway, here's Wonderwall. Okay. So for the guest stories that are a little, let's say, ill-advised. So this one is, a lot of these are about family, obviously. Mm-hmm. I mean, yours was about family.
Yeah.
Because family, I think, often, even if they're not paying a dime, feel an outsized ability to make it about themselves.
Yes, they do.
And to exert their will. My mom threatened to not even come to my wedding if I did not make my sister maid of honor.
But do you like, are you and your sister close? Do you like each other? Does your sister want to be your maid of honor? Is that something that she actually wants? Like, parents get a vision of something sometimes in their head, I think. And then you just end up being either punished or rewarded for doing what they wanted you to do. But your desire was never part of the equation. I hate that.
Yeah, to mom I say, then bye, bitch, because whether or not I make my sister a maid of honor is entirely my decision.
Yes.
It's weird and inappropriate that you think it should be yours.
Yes.
Even if you were to weigh in on it, I don't think that's really cool to do to someone because that should be their choice. But more importantly, like to threaten to not even go to your own daughter's wedding if she doesn't want to do it. Like, I really think like a lot of boomer parents and specifically boomer mothers. Okay, this is like really, because so many of these submissions that we got are about parents just acting completely inappropriate and feeling so entitled, again, regardless of financial contribution, to having this say over people. And I really do think that for a lot of previous generations, you had children feeling like they owed you something for you bringing them into this world. I actually think it's the reverse. None of us asked to be here.
None.
And you do not get to just for the rest of my life sort of look at me as an extension of you.
Right.
And judge me based on how much I do or do not fit into your expectations.
Right.
But the number of people, even in my own life, the number of people, like I had a really good friend whose mom was being a complete nightmare leading up to her wedding. Constantly saying shit about she's not going to fit into the dress because she's eating too much. Like really bad stuff, financially, body image, otherwise, family drama, blah, blah, blah. And I honestly think that at some point, generationally, we all have to kind of put our foot down with this type of parenting and say, get thee to therapy or talk to someone who cares because I can't keep living my life to please you as a 30-whatever-year-old human being.
I mean, I know it's hard when kids are kids, but at some point, as a parent, you're going to have to accept that not only is your kid a separate human being, but they've been a separate human being the whole time. And sometimes I think that parents who try to hold on to that level of control, especially around things like weddings and like big events that are considered these like markers in a person's life, right? Next phase, next phase, next phase. Parents who cannot relinquish control in those moments, in my estimation, are still struggling with the idea that their child is an independent being with their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own emotions, their own desires, and that the only way to find out what those are to actually listen to your kid. It feels to me like very clear, very plain. It makes more sense than how we were doing it before. But nobody's. Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think it is? And specifically, I feel like weddings trigger this in parents so badly. What is that need to hold on to white knuckle, to control, and to think, have you ever had a parent or
Yes.
have you ever had like a friend or somebody say that like their parent will say something like, they'll say like, I want to do this or I want this. And their parent will be like, no, you don't. Come on. I know you. I know you better than you know yourself.
I truly hate that phrase. And yes, I've heard quite a bit of that. I think we talked about this recently on the phone, actually. I think a lot of parents were raised in situations, conditions, dynamics that we would today consider to be very abusive.
Yes.
They had very little autonomy, very little control. I mean, even for women especially, like couldn't control their own money, couldn't control their own, life choices. Like there was so little autonomy granted to people in previous generations. And I think a lot of times parents of adult children conflate not being as bad as what they experienced with being good.
Ooh.
And, often when behaviors like this will happen, you're not hitting someone, you're not taking money from them. You know what I mean? You're not doing any of like what we recognize as like super, super, super boundary crossing stuff. And it's probably less than what that mom's mom did to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like when the adult child pushes back on stuff like that and says like, hey, actually it's not cool of you to threaten to not even come to my wedding if I don't do what you want me to do. A lot of times the response is like, oh my God, when I was your age, or like my mother, blah, blah, blah. And I think, that speaks to, in addition to like this, not seeing them as independent beings who you chose to bring into the world, who did not ask to be here. I think there's also this feeling of resentment if you get to do too many of the things that I was never able to do.
Yes.
And on your terms.
Yes. And often they can't metabolize that resentment.
Nope.
They can't even admit that they feel it. And I think it just spills over in these moments, which makes me so sad because, with any luck, the wedding, you only do one, or at least like the first one is like, that's the first one.
Right.
And that moment is imbued with so much, love and so much connection and so much like hope, really. And then you've got somebody coming in feeling weird, I guess, about the fact that you're changing, about the fact that they're changing, about the fact that things are changing. And it scares them so much that they attempt to control every variable to the point that like they're really putting a bad damper on this, like what should have been a bright and shiny situation, a beautiful, lovely, celebratory moment. And now it's like, now I'm going to remember this, Mom. Now I'm going to remember that either I had the bridesmaid I didn't want, or the maid of honor I didn't want so that you would come, or that you weren't there. Now that's the memory of my wedding. That's the point. And I feel sometimes like parents especially really enjoy the power that comes along with being a parent, but They don't have enough respect for the responsibility of being a parent. Even if they live up to the responsibility, they don't have respect for it. And the fact that you've developed a relationship with a person who's bound to you biologically and who will naturally wants to be with you and want to be around you and wants your approval and everything else, you have to respect that enough to be careful with it.
And it gets all the more complex when you're accepting money from them for things like this. And part of the reason it was always very important for me to be financially independent was that I know the kind of leverage that comes along with money in so many cases. And I really don't like the dynamics that creates. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to weddings, like a lot of these stories are about parents paying for things and then being dicks. And to that I say, well, you don't have to take the money. You don't. Because this isn't a need to have, this is a nice to have. Mm-hmm. You could have a less expensive wedding, say no to their money, and not have to deal with their shit.
I agree.
So yeah, I sort of have empathy for both sides in the sense of like, once you're paying for it, yeah, I guess you do kind of get a say. But if you're not, like, be gone. Be gone. Okay, so on the flip side, though, we have a question, or we have a story. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a conundrum, a dilemma. Am I the asshole for not attending my best friend's wedding because of a pet medical emergency? Am I the asshole for not wanting to go to my best friend's wedding after a pet medical emergency? Let me set the scene. I've been nothing but supportive and helpful with my best friend's wedding. She's had meltdowns and I've gotten her through them. She's had doubts and I've gotten her through them, and so on and so forth. I've helped her plan everything from the beginning and had all intentions of going. It's a week before the wedding and my dog has a huge medical emergency. Money was spent. Well, we do what we have to for our fur babies, right? She's my husband's and I's first baby. I texted my friend that we had this emergency and we were up in the air for the wedding because of the emergency. To clarify, I never said we weren't going. She never replied. And just for some background, our dog is on a lot of medication and has to be monitored 24/7 for the next few weeks. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would be texting and asking her what I could do and if everything was okay. During this whole process, she has made this wedding seem like it was all on my shoulders and like I was planning it, told me I would be taking photos, never asked, by the way, just assumed, asked us to cover all the people, and her father-in-law couldn't for the reception when I said my husband and I could for sure cover our end. Again, no response. She made an itinerary after all the flights and hotels had been booked days before and after people got there, so some people would end up not going to events. And to top it all off, I had been suggesting a few of us get something commemorative of the trip, and she scheduled that for the day that after I left and then gave the credit to someone else who's not helped with anything. Am I overreacting? Am I the asshole? Can I say something here?
Yes.
I think that dog karmically sensed that you hate your best friend. And was like, I'm giving you a reason to set a boundary, Mom.
I got the black lung pop. Yeah.
Because to be real, I don't know how you feel, but if it were my best friend's wedding and things were good and we were close and I have a husband and our dog gets sick, husband stays home with the dog and I go to the wedding.
Yes.
No question. Like, yes. I love my dog more than is healthy or socially acceptable. Anytime someone's like, white people and their dogs, I'm like, correct. We're licking off that same ice cream cone. We're doing anything you've ever seen on a meme video, that's us. But even I would never miss my best friend's wedding for a pet medical, especially if it's an old ass dog who's been on medicine for a long time. Like, that's just part of pet ownership. And if you have a partner who could stay home, then I would totally ask him to do that. But it sounds like your friend's a turbo bitch.
It does sound like a bit of a turbo. Because I got to be honest, the way I love my dog is probably also unhealthy, very unhinged. I'm obsessed with him. And he's getting older. And the truth of the matter is, if I were in the exact same situation, Chelsea, same thing. Kelly will stay home with Astro, and I am going to my best friend's wedding. My best friend's wedding? I'm not missing my best friend's wedding, and I love my dog. He's a member of our family too. We'll take care of him. We'll make sure he has everything he needs. But the truth of the matter is, if my dog got sick, just me being around to look at him while he's sick is not going to make him feel better. He doesn't actually need me there. Kelly being there is nice. Somebody being there with him that he knows and is like comfortable with is lovely, but he doesn't need me there. Whereas my friend getting married, hopefully first wedding, big deal, a rite of passage, I want to be there. It's important to me to be there. But I ain't taking all them pictures and stuff, and I'm not doing everything. Like there was a lot of stuff going on there. Like, she wants me to do this and she wants me to do this, and it's like, she can ask me to do those things, and I might be able to.
I think the reality of a lot of weddings that we've seen throughout these stories is that they lay bare that a lot of friends don't like each other.
They must not.
Or at least don't know what friends are. They don't know what friendship means. It's like when Jordan Peterson talks about whether or not he believes in God. Whatever definition he's using is not the definition from the Bible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, because someone saying this is my best friend, everything they've listed, I'm like, no, it's not. That is not your best friend. That's not even your acquaintance. That person doesn't like you. So I think, I'm sure the dog is sick. But I also think psychically, subconsciously, like, there's just an energy there of like, she probably is responding to this in the way that she is because she already didn't really feel good about going.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's so important to remember that we don't need a reason for opting out of things that aren't respectful of us, that aren't fun or enjoyable or good for our mental health or things like that. If people are taking advantage of us and treating us poorly, we're allowed to say no.
We're allowed to remove ourselves as well.
But in this instance, I think it's disingenuous to not show up to the wedding and say, well, it's because the dog got sick.
I agree. I think the dog being sick is a factor, okay?
Sure.
That's fine. But if you want that to hold up as the sole reason why you can't make it to your best friend's wedding, I think she already knows you're not her best friend.
Yeah.
Clearly. I think she already knows. And you're just going to have to accept that, and if you don't want it to be because you missed her wedding for a dog, just chalk it up to different values.
I totally agree. Well, on that note about values and commitments, we're going to be closing out wedding season next week with an episode all about engagements and leading up to the wedding, which is its own fraught time of financial misdeeds and broken relationships. But thank you guys so much for joining us here, and we will see you back here next week on Wedding Season.